On this episode of Big Boys Don't Cry, we discuss the 2018 film Little Italy. You don't have to have seen the film to enjoy the podcast, but if you do listen without having seen the film, just be aware that we might talk about elements of the plot and there might be spoilers. Enjoy. Yeah, da 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 da.
Paddy Johnston and Rob Gordon are here to talk rom-coms. Hello.
I started too low on that, so when I went right down to the low notes, it was right at the bottom of my range, but I just about got there.
Excellent. Whereas I just besmirched the name of Italy everywhere by singing the Italian national anthem, but making us about our podcast. Sorry,
Which
Italy.
is fine. No, I think Italy would be okay with it. How are you doing?
I mean, I'm all right. I mean, Italy, they're probably more okay with that than they are with the film Little Italy, aren't they?
Yes. 100%. But I'd venture to say that probably no Italian person has watched this film.
Or been involved in this film.
Or been involved in this film. Yeah.
Okay,
let's dive right in then.
Let's go straight into
Fresh
it.
out of the very hot podcast oven.
Yeah, screw the pleasantries. We're going to be...
You don't want to hear about the pie that I've got in the oven. I was going to talk about how Jordan Peterson's back on his bullshit. But, we can save that for later.
We can save that for later on. For now, let's talk about our favourite Canadian Italian Canadians.
Yeah, Italian Canadians.
In the movie Little Italy.
2018.
2018. So, set in the Italian neighborhood of Toronto, it's Romeo and Juliet apart from about pizzerias and very bad.
Yeah, I love the bit where they both died at the end.
Yeah, they both ate tainted pizza.
Yeah, it was like, no, the oregano.
Yeah,
it wasn't supposed to kill you.
And then he goes, no, now I must eat the tainted sauce, and also dies.
But it's not the tainted sauce. That's the twist.
Yes, exactly. So this movie is... This movie gained notoriety before it came out because of its awful poster.
The one where Hayden Christensen... I mean, he does look older than he is in this film anyway, but on the poster, he looks like he's 45. He looks like a sort of aged and stretched Vince Vaughn.
It's true.
Which I know is unkind, but...
It is unkind.
Can't deny it.
But it does. There is a noticeable age gap between the two leads in this movie, even though they're meant to be kids at the same age together when they were younger. Because Hayden Christensen, I think, is about 10 years older than Emma Roberts.
Oh, really?
And it kind of shows in this film.
Let's see. She was born in 1991. Jesus Christ. She's younger than us. He was born in 1981. You are correct. And he's older than us, so that's good.
He's older than us. And he is the Italian link for this movie. There's a few Italian links, and his mother was, or at least has, some Italian ancestry apparently.
Ah, okay. So, I did not know that. I did not make that assumption, but he was able to put on something of an accent in this film, so I thought maybe there was something there.
Yeah, so maybe. But god damn this movie, man. It is immediately the most fake Italian thing I've ever seen in my life. It's quite incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I have been to Little Italy in Toronto, and it's very nice.
Was there a pizza making contest when you were in Toronto, Italy?
I did not stumble upon any pizza eating contests. I mean, I walked through the neighbourhood once in an afternoon, but it seemed very, very nice.
Oh, there we go. And it looks nice here, even though the people in it are horrible horn dogs to a person.
Everybody's horny in this film.
Yeah, they are.
I'm surprised they didn't use the song Horny by Moose T featuring whoever it was.
Oh, that song is amazing.
A banger.
But that's what strikes me as interesting is that this movie, or maybe not interesting is not the right word, but this movie's the original poster is one of the most default nonsense things that's ever been made.
If you haven't seen it, it's so good. It's got like a sort of Italian flag that's been made into something else. I can't tell. Is it a ticket, like a plane ticket with a heart on top? I can't even tell what it is. And then there's a heart on top of that. And when they're standing there in their t-shirts from the film, and Hayden Christensen is leaning. I think we could just spend an hour dissecting this poster, but he's like leaning forward in a really weird way. And she's just like got her hands on her hips, looking like with her kind of fake smile pinned on, going, how long do I have to stand here? And yeah, it's a terrible poster, but it's got really bad typography as well. Like, where they've got a sort of like, when you go to, it's sort of word art-ish fonts for the names, and then just like a very basic sans serif for Little Italy, which sometimes I'm in favour of, but no, it looks bad.
Yeah, it's quite bad. So that was what introduced this movie to the world. The poster that they eventually went with isn't much better, I think it's fair to say. And
it looks more like a Nora Ephron type poster, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The updated one.
And then the main story is really generic, and a lot of the time it's a very generic film. So these two kids, they grew up together in the same pizzeria where their dads worked together and made the best goddamn pizza that Toronto's ever seen. And then they fell out. The two dads fell out over something.
And nobody knows why.
And then flash forward to modern day. Emma Roberts, Nikki Angioli, is now a super trainee chef in London.
With no hint of an Italian accent.
Being trained by Jane Seymour.
Not the wife of Henry VIII.
Not the wife of Henry VIII, the actor. And she is training to be a chef, but then she has to go back home to update her student visa to a work visa because she's going to potentially be the chef at this fancy new restaurant in Mayfair where all of the millennials are going to go, apparently. Because when I think of Mayfair, I think of millennials. I think that's where, where the hip young people go. They go to Mayfair. That's where.
Yeah, because I don't know if you know this about millennials, right? Our generation, but every single one of us has got shitloads of money and wants to spend it in an expensive restaurant.
We've got fuckloads of money, and we can all afford to go to. We can't even step foot in Mayfair. The people of Mayfair turn flamethrowers on us as soon as we try and enter. Which is very bizarre. But she has to go back home, and then she returns to the horniest place in the world.
Little Italy, Toronto. Officially, are we saying it's official?
I think
the
it's
horniest
official.
Place on earth.
Yeah, I think if we went to Guinness and asked them to officially rate the horniest place on earth, it would be Little Italy in Toronto.
Guinness World Record, the horniest place on earth. How do they measure that?
I guess the number of condoms bought per square mile. The number of STDs. So you've got both the people who use contraception and the people who don't, and I don't know apart from that.
I think someone who works for the Guinness World Record company has to go there and like live there for a week and just listen to all the horny conversations that are happening. There's someone whose job it is to do that for all the different places that claim that they're the horniest place on earth, and then he gets to decide.
Yeah, I think that's what they've got to do. So she goes back here, and just to go into a little bit of let's just talk about some of the horniness. So you've got horny old ladies.
Is this the horn section?
This is the horn section. This is the horn section of the podcast where we talk about how horny. So you've got really horny old ladies. You've got really horny parents. Really
this is going to be our new bit, our new feature.
How horny
section?
How horny is this film?
Not to be confused with How High 2001.
How High, exactly. So I think you're introduced to the horniness through Emma Roberts' friends who she meets at the airport, aren't you? Where they turn up and they're immediately like, let's talk about how great penises are and how rubbish penises are.
Here comes some vulgar gags coming at you.
Gags. But then after that, you've got an incredibly horny delivery guy / I guess sous chef to the one of the Italian restaurants. It doesn't matter which one.
/ Indian stereotype.
/ Indian stereotype. Yep, that's right. Of which we have 2 in this movie.
Yep. 2 for the price of 1.
And so he's like, "Oh, I'm going to go deliver this pizza to some ladies. I better put some mouth spray in and get ready to get some good loving going on. Turns
like
out
this is Anchorman level stuff.
Yeah, exactly, but without the irony of Anchorman at all.
What's Italian for Sex Panther? Because that's probably in there somewhere.
Panther de sexo. I think it is.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, so he turns up, and then it's these three old ladies that are like, well, you're going to have sex with us, and drag him into the house. And you're like, that's odd. The parents are constantly talking about sex all the time. Okay, that's fine. You know, older people who embrace their sexuality, fully on board with that.
Yeah. We must stress at this point, I think. I said that a bit like Boris Johnson when he's giving one of his coronavirus briefings. Well, I must stress to you, we must stress to you, our good listeners, that we don't have a problem with horny.
No, we love a bit of horny. We love a bit of horny.
Horn is good.
Yeah. The parents are horny. That's great. The grandparents are also horny. There's this whole lovely subplot that I'd like to go into more detail when we're through the horn section, where the grandparents are horny. Brilliant. Everyone in the restaurant, when they get given weed by accident, is horny. That's not what weed does to you. It doesn't make you dance on tables. It doesn't make you super horny, but they're all mega horny. Are
you farting right now, or is there feedback?
I'm not farting. Are you getting feedback?
It sounds fine now, but just while you were saying that last sentence, there was just this like going on in the background.
It's
Be interested to hear if that's
section.
on the weekend. Oh yeah, so on the recording. That's the sound of the horn section.
Yeah, exactly. So they're all extremely horny there. And then lol, we've got a lol sexual assault against men is funny moment there as well, where Hayden Christensen gets felt up by a female cop and everyone's laughing.
It's and everyone's watching and they're just like, what? Why is no one saying anything or doing anything?
Yeah, because sexual harassment of a man is funny. Yeah, lol.
Well, I mean, no one's saying or doing anything because cops. I mean, even in Toronto they have guns, right? But
yeah, they're all like, "Oh yeah, he's being felt up by a cop. This is really funny." And then you're supposed to be laughing along as this man is groped by a person in a position of authority, and you're like, "Yeah, no, this isn't cool, movie."
He's just rolling a bunch of like dick jokes off her tongue while she grabs him.
Yeah, what's this here? Oh, listen, your abs are really rock hard. What else is hard? And fucking hell, this film's taking a turn. You've got a random guy who's got a foot fetish, who's like sniffing Emma Roberts' shoes.
Oh yeah, geez, that came out of nowhere.
Which came out of nowhere. And then
like an anchovy on a pizza.
And then Hayden Christensen's kind of got the horn. He's sleeping around. He's having fun. Emma Roberts is not, and feels a little bit, there's all of these reasons why she's out of place, and she's supposed to feel out of place. Like, oh, I make food that's too good for a pizzeria, and I wanted to escape and get away from this claustrophobic environment. But really, the thing that sets her out from everyone else is that she notoriously lacks the horn that everybody else in this neighborhood has.
Yeah. Everyone in her Italian family is like, why you not having the horn?
Why you not having the horn? Yeah, it's like,
and that's genuinely what's in the film. That's not me doing that accent. That's the offensive accent that's in the film.
That is completely right, yeah. They bring out a load of cannolis and it's like, these are the kind of horns you make. This is the kind of horn we make. And they just gesture violently at one another. But yeah, so anyway, so eventually she does get the horn though, and Hayden Christensen and her make it a baby. But then kind of regret it, and then everyone else just continues to be horny. There's a wonderful line that's like, oh yeah, you want to be with a man that makes you horny, but the real man you want is the one that you want to eat every day, or something like that.
I wrote it down. It's a good man is the meal you want to eat every night. After which the note I wrote down read, what the fuck, you weird horny cannibals?
Yeah, so what's the secret ingredient in their pizza? It's human flesh and and sex. That's so
Soylent Green, White and Red.
Oh dear. So it's quite something, the level of horn, because apart from that, this movie is a bad light-hearted rom-com, but just if everyone in a bad light-hearted rom-com was extremely horny.
Horny and vulgar.
Yeah.
And, I appreciate a certain level of vulgarity, but this is like, it's a shame, because buried in there is the kernel of a decent film. The dough that this film is baked on is good. It's a decent base, but the toppings, man. Someone just decided we'll cover this in endless toppings of shit gags. And okay, like you have a couple of slices, you're like, okay, I enjoy shit gags. This is nice. You get to the third one, you start to feel a little full, a little sick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. They've overdone it on the toppings, haven't they? Well, they could have made a very nice margarita, but instead they went for a meat feast. And it didn't work for them, and it's too greasy. The quality of the meat is bad. This is a greasy film. But yeah, they're really big on the Italian stereotypes, aren't they? So, like, there's this scene early on where Emma Roberts has stayed over at Hayden Christensen's flat because she got drunk. And like he's like, hey, have an espresso, and then they drink a espresso, and then later on they eat a pizza. It's like. Not every Italian person has an espresso every day. It's like it's not a thing. But yeah, they just keep shoving all of that.
Of course they do. What are you talking about? It's just like how we eat roast beef every day.
Yeah, I have a roast dinner every day. It's just
breakfast.
Yeah. It's just really odd, the sheer quantity of Italian stuff they just shoehorn into this movie, which I suppose is what people wanted from a movie called Little Italy about a pizza contest. But still, it's a bit
But that's
much.
the thing. It's not about the contest. You get an hour and 15 minutes in, and that's when the contest happens. And you're like, what? What? I thought this was a contest movie. This is the central problem with it, is that it's not the contest movie, and it should be the contest movie. That should be the hook, rather than the kind of will they, won't they, we're old friends, here's some horny vulgar stuff because that's what you like because it's funny, yeah, you millennials.
Enjoy these vulgar jokes, you pigs.
You hogs.
Yeah, so it's odd, and it's very meandering as well, and some of the meandering works quite well. So Danny Aiello is in this movie.
I love him so much.
Rest his soul. And this
was his last role.
Yeah, and he's great in this, and he is
basically reprising his character from Do the Right Thing.
Yes, yeah, just however many years later. And he's in love with the grandma of Emma Roberts, and Emma Roberts' grandma is in love with Hayden Christensen's granddad, played by Danny Aiello. And that story is actually quite sweet. So they meet up in the church to talk dirty talk in the confession
horny
booth.
confession.
Horny confession. They go to Starbucks and they drink lots of Starbucks coffee. Which I think that's quite a funny little inversion, because you've got these two massive Italian stereotypes, and rather than drinking espresso, they're drinking these incredibly sweet, syrupy coffees and really loving it. And I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, that was fun. I appreciated that.
Yeah, and their whole story is really lovely, and I quite enjoyed it. And again, they both got the horn, because of course they do. This is a horny movie, but with them it feels much more fun, and you're like, okay, yeah, I can get on board with these old people wanting to have a little bit of fun in their twilight years, and eventually they're getting married and things like that. And so I almost wish that was the main plot.
I would watch that film. That would be a lovely film, wouldn't it? All about this kind of romance between two old Italians in Canada. And
in fact, if you really wanted to keep the whole feuding families thing together, you could even keep that in there as an inversion of Romeo and Juliet, where they decide, you know what, we're sick of this feud between our sons. If we get married, they're going to have to be brothers, and they're going to have to deal with it. And so it starts off as this like mutual arrangement, and then they grow to love each other more and more and more. And I think that could be a really nice little premise. That could be a nice little movie in its own right.
And you can still have the pizza thing as a subplot, even
if you wanted to. Yeah, you could have it, but instead you've got a young woman and a not quite as young man who are sort of supposedly in love, but it never really feels very natural, does it?
It really does not, no. And I think that's the real problem with this film, is it just feels like he's sort of mumbling and following her around and doing nice things for her, but it's like you never feel that she's into it, really. But it still feels like, even though he's like weirdly passive, and like he's the one still doing stuff and she's passive and just kind of letting stuff happen to her, and it just feels like you're not really rooting for either of them, even though they're not unlikable.
Yeah, I think that's right. And he's much more likable for the majority of the runtime until he becomes a real piece of shit for about 15 minutes. Because of course he does, because he's a man in a romantic comedy that doesn't have much imagination. So he becomes an asshole for a little short while to kind of raise the stakes a bit. But yeah, he's generally more likable. He's very grounded. He's like, hey, I teach the kids soccer and I cook in the pizzeria. But I've got these.
I'm growing my herb garden.
I've got these radical ideas that don't align with what my dad wants to do with his pizzeria, so I'm going to have to keep them on the lowdown.
Which he definitely should, because figs on pizza, fuck you.
Well, not so much the figs on pizza, which is a weird idea.
That is not just that is perverted.
But sorry. No. Time for generalizations here from me. No self-respecting Italian or Italian American or Italian Canadian would put Gouda on a pizza. I'm sorry, fuck off.
Yeah, that's what, Gouda, a Swiss cheese?
Yeah, Gouda is Dutch, I think.
Dutch. You're correct.
Nobody who makes pizza would ever put Gouda on a pizza as the primary cheese.
It does not melt well. Gouda,
maybe if you're doing multiple cheeses, maybe if you're doing like a 3 cheese or 4 cheese pizza, Gouda might be one of the cheeses there. But as the base cheese for a pizza, fuck off with that shit. I'm sorry, it's awful. The most unrealistic thing in this movie that they didn't immediately spit that out and say that it is a insult to their Italian heritage. I'm sorry. But I did appreciate that he's got this massive pizza oven in his house or whatever it is that he's doing, because it's not the normal restaurant, is it, that he's doing the cooking in?
No, this is his own little apartment that he shares with Luigi, the horny bartender.
Yeah, Luigi the horny bartender, one of the few really enjoyable characters in this movie, I think I'd say. He runs the bar and he's horny and he gets his bum out.
Oh yeah. It's a perfect shot, that, isn't it? It's just like you see it through her eyes, there's suddenly his arse and the pants pull up around it.
Yeah, it's glorious.
Very good.
So he lives there, but it's a really fancy apartment and he has a pizza oven and he makes her this pizza. And I thought they were going to go down like the ghost route where instead of clay, it's pizza dough and they're kneading it together.
I thought that as well.
And I feel like that's a bit of a missed opportunity that they didn't do that.
Definitely.
But they don't do that. But instead, he says, "No, you leave it in for a little bit longer to make it crispy." And she goes, "No, it's ready now." And you've got this whole, he's a pizza chef from the streets, and she's a highly trained
he's a radical
chef.
Dude.
He's a highly trained chef who follows the rules. That doesn't come up again until right at the end. It's just very odd. There's all these very odd decisions made in this film.
Yeah, it's an odd film, isn't it? And for something that really ultimately is kind of pedestrian, it's weird how weird it is.
Yeah, it's because it is most of the runtime. If you went through the plot points one after another, it would seem like the most generic rom-com you'd ever found in your life. You know, she comes home from being away, runs into boy that she used to like, falls back in love again. Their parents don't like it. Hijinks ensue. Eventually she goes to leave, but then comes back after a chase to the airport. Because yes, this movie has
there's an airport chase.
It has the most boring airport chase I think I've ever seen, but there is an airport chase in this movie.
What he should have done was to ride his Vespa like into the airport and all the way up to airport security and like do a sort of sick wheelie over the security and then get arrested for it.
Exactly. And can I just point out, here's a little something. She's flying from Toronto and going to London is where she's going to end up. But the flight she's getting is a flight to Manchester. But I think there's direct flights to Gatwick, isn't there, from Toronto?
Yeah, I flew to Toronto from Heathrow. You can fly from both.
Yeah.
And in 2018, I'm pretty sure that was the case as well.
So why the fuck is she going to Manchester first?
I don't know if that was even Toronto Airport.
Oh, do you reckon
Leicester B. Pearson Airport?
So do you even a little bit of movie behind the scenes, how the sausage is made. A lot of movies film in Canada rather than in America. partially to get around union rules, partially to get tax breaks, things like that. So do you reckon that they were too cheap to film it in Toronto and instead filmed it in a cheaper Canadian city instead?
Yeah, like Brampton, Ontario or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like the Little Italy I walked through when I was in Toronto many years ago to me, but I can't be sure.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, why would you why would she be flying to Manchester? Maybe she fancied going to see the home of the Happy Mondays before she went.
Huge fan of Bez.
Massive fan of Bez. What did
Can I call her hip restaurant for millennials Bez's Cool Joint?
Bez's Diner. That's what it's going to be.
Bez's Diner.
You get the Bez special and it's just like chili served up in a shit hat.
With like edible maracas on the side.
Yes.
Well, everything is served in like a maraca, an ice cream cone version of a maraca.
Oh, that would be genius. I think we need to go into the restaurant business, and we can have a lads band themed restaurant.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we could have. What other bands would go well?
Kasabian fries.
You could do a clubfoot stew, and it's like a hoof stew, couldn't you? With some little marrow.
Disgusting.
Yeah. We could have an Oasis one.
Yeah.
A Wonder Wall of chocolate, and it's like a chocolate fondue.
Nice. In the shape of a wall, and you've got to like break it down. Yeah.
Yeah, this would work.
Yeah. It's going to opening in Manchester, 2021.
Yeah, 2021. Emma Roberts is going to be our executive chef.
Yeah. She's going to bring in... She can think of loads of dishes that we can't because it's her talent, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're just going to put all of our millennial money behind it.
It'll put all of our money, because we're sick of spending all of our money in Mayfair constantly. We've got so much money that we're going to go out and, set up this restaurant just for fun. That's what we're going to do, just for fun.
It's for a laugh. It's a side gig.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're going to do.
I don't even care if it makes money, because to me, it's all about the don't look back in anger pie.
You have to
my pie out the oven. Thank you.
Was that
Sorry. I had to check that my pie had come out of the oven.
There is actually a don't look back in anger pie.
Yeah, well, it's now christened that. I'm just going to get like when you print pictures onto sugar paper and put it on a cupcake, I'm going to do one of Noel Gallagher doing a V sign, and then I'm going to put it on top of the pie.
Oh, very good. I think we need to theme the different areas of the menu as well. So
sorry, I'm being told I will not do anything with Noel Gallagher. It's a bit. We're doing a bit. You don't understand it because you can't hear what he's saying. You can only hear me. I'm getting the thumbs down. Anyway.
But I think we need to theme the different parts of the menu. So Don't Look Back in Hunger will be the dessert section, because you don't want to, just in case you haven't eaten enough, you want to make sure you've got some dessert. That
is very good. Song
2 for second course. So for the mains, it all comes as Song 2. Fire starters.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
You're good at this.
There we go.
If you're really, really naughty, twisted fire starters.
Twisted fires. Yeah, those are
That's all the like spicy dishes.
Yeah, if you want, everything comes with a side of Scotch bonnet chilies, and those are the twisted fire starters. Yeah. This is going to happen. This is going to work. But yeah, unfortunately, there are no puns like that, really.
No.
In this movie.
There are a few puns, aren't there?
There's a lot of puns. It's generally around
See if you can remember any of those while I try and think of a way I can shoehorn Smack My Bitch Up into a meal.
Smack my quiche up.
There you go. I just don't have it today.
Yeah, smack my quiche up. What other songs are there? I'm not up with my football rock.
Yeah, and you're the one of us who likes football, so I think I'm probably the wrong person for this. I'm just going to be a silent investor.
but the one who intensely dislikes football rock music.
Yeah. A silent and horny investor.
You could have like a fancy dish that's covered in fool's gold leaf.
Oh, that's good.
One.
Yeah.
But have you ever watched the show Worth It? It's a BuzzFeed show.
No, I did not know there were BuzzFeed shows.
Yeah, so BuzzFeed has a few YouTube channels, and some of them are very funny. There's a great one called BuzzFeed Unsolved, where it's these two guys that either look at unsolved real life mysteries or go and look at supernatural stuff. And it's these two very funny guys who do it. And there's another show called Worth It, where it's these different two fellas, and they go around to different themes of food. So it might be hot dogs or pizza or what have you. And they look at a low price point, average price point, and top price point, and they decide which one is most worth it to eat. And often the top price point one is like, here's a pizza, but actually it's just a flatbread covered in caviar and gold leaf, that kind of thing, and it costs $5,000, that kind of stuff.
Right. This concept is sounding familiar to me. Maybe I have seen it.
So I think maybe they could have done that in this movie and had like a big fancy pizza that's just covered in gold leaf, and caviar and foie gras and everything like that.
Yeah,
because those things go together and wouldn't be an overpowering, disgusting mess.
Yeah.
Have you ever had caviar or roe or any kind of fish egg thing?
No, I haven't.
Roe is vile. It's genuinely really horrible.
Cod roe.
Yeah.
Can't you get that down the chippy?
You can get it down the chippy, I think. Or you used to.
So what is it? It's just like cod egg?
Yeah, it's just eggs. You just eating fish egg. It's not very nice.
Sounds revolting.
Yeah, but rich people like that kind of stuff, and they like ducks that have been incredibly poorly treated, so much so that their livers get incredibly fatty and then get cooked up. And they like things covered in gold. And that's the kind of stuff that we like as people who go to Mayfair all the time, you know.
Yeah, gold stuff. If it doesn't have gold leaf on it, I don't want to know.
My entire house is covered in gold leaf. My entire house is gold, like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
My laptop is covered in gold right now. It makes it very hard to use, but it looks fantastic.
My face is covered in gold. It's actually quite hard to talk to you right now.
Each strand of your beard is just wrapped in gold.
Yeah. So it turns out cod roe is like a Scandinavian delicacy. Who knew? But they kind of make it into a weird sausage.
Ugh.
Yeah, all right.
That's
it looks disgusting. Anyway.
Yeah, it's not great. I'm not going to lie. Apologies to anyone who likes eating fish eggs of any kind. But I think you're weird. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you pervert.
Anyway, right, back to Little Italy. Did you notice there's some weird racism in this film?
I did, unfortunately, yes. Because it's kind of hard not to when literally every time any of the Indian characters opens their mouths, it's an Indian stereotype.
Yeah, they're always talking about something very, very Indian stereotypy. One of the old ladies says to the Indian guy, "Take me on your magic carpet ride."
Yeah,
did you catch that?
Yeah, then he says he's going to show her his Indian rope trick. Yeah,
it's not good.
That was nasty.
It's really not good. Like, I do appreciate seeing that these Italian restaurants have people who aren't Italian working in them, but the fact that there's two Indian people and they're both just horrible stereotypes is not good.
And of course, figures of ridicule.
Yeah, and they're both, they're not these sympathetic characters. They're just people there to be laughed at, really. And then at the end, of course, the two Indian people must get together.
Yeah, saw that one coming a mile off.
Yeah, that's got to happen. So it's not great. But there's some other weird choices as well. Like some of the script is very odd. Not just the sheer level of horn, but
and there's gags being thrown in every few minutes.
Yeah, that kind of breaks whatever pace it was trying to do. But like she says, "Oh, I've appreciated this tryst," and it's like, who the fuck uses the word tryst?
No one says that, and his reaction to it is actually perfect because he goes, "Well, tryst,
tryst, yeah,
sure," in the way that you would if someone said that, because you'd be like, "What?
Yeah,
what words are you saying right now?"
if I had had a romantic engagement with someone and they said, "Look, I appreciate the tryst we're having," I'd be like, "Oh shit, I've travelled back in time to the 19th century."
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realise we were in, a staging of Romeo and Juliet or the Taming of the Shrew.
Exactly, Oh, I better go. Better go away, try and find my time machine. There's also
I thought you were going to say, better go and find my pantaloons. Or
I've also got to go find
my
my
ruff.
pantaloons and my ruff. Put on some lead-based makeup and things like that. There's also the bit where he says the word kale over and over again. And I was like, what is the point of this? Do you remember that scene where she says, "Oh, I bet you've never heard of kale," and then he just goes, "Kale, kale, 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 kale." It's like, well, okay.
It's like the film skipped.
Yeah, it was exactly. It's like, how is this skipped? This is I'm watching it on Netflix. What's going on here? So in general, Paddy, I just want to apologise for bringing this movie to your attention, because although you chose it, this was your choice, wasn't it? I think.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
I'm the one who let you know that it was around. Really.
I could have stumbled across it myself. It's on Netflix. Yeah. It might have come up.
So I apologise for making you watch this.
That's okay. There's a lot wrong with it, and we've just spent a lot of time kind of ripping it apart. But I don't know if I hate it. There's something lovable about it at its core. It's just got a lot of problems with it. But I'm not annoyed that I watched it.
Okay, that's good. Because, I'm not annoyed that I watched it, but it is a very bad film.
Is it a shit piece?
It's not a shit piece because it's not weird enough to be a shit piece. Although it almost... Well, it doesn't almost, but it's slightly leaning towards Wazoian territory with its weirdness and its non sequiturs and everything like that. But it's not there. So although it has these strange moments, it's far too timid in spite of its horniness to really go anywhere weird enough for people to really take notice. But what's interesting is that there's a very big disparity in terms of how this movie was received critically versus how it was received by audiences.
Right.
So it's not being well received by audiences by any means, but it's standing at a 5.7 out of 10 on IMDb. So that's still a pretty bad score for a rom-com, which generally people are quite lenient with score-wise, but it's not awful. But according to Metacritic, the average critic score is 28 out of 100, 28%, which is not great. So there's only 4 reviews on Metacritic of this movie, which is never a good sign in the first place. So the Chicago Sun-Times said it is an extra cheesy and terrible film. The LA Times said, despite an energetic supporting cast, including Martin, Alyssa Milano, Danny Aiello and Gary Basaraba, the 2 leads sleepwalk through this limp and formulaic endeavour. Original Sin said it's awful by any metric you apply. And
what's Original Sin?
I don't know, but sin is spelt C-I-N, so I assume
okay, right.
cinema.
I thought that might have been a reference to the Catholicism of the film at first.
And then the Globe and Mail Toronto said, a slice of advice then, take the film's 102 minutes to visit the actual Little Italy and enjoy a leisurely meal, or make your own pie at home, or stay at home and do nothing.
That's like really polite and cutting. That's really polite and Canadian, but also extremely cutting. That's like the most Canadian way you could just absolutely own someone.
Yeah, it's very,
I would rather do nothing than be in your company, sir.
Whereas the audience is a little bit more accepting of it. It stands at 5.7 on IMDb, 5.8 on Metacritic. People saying, "Oh, it's not bad, it's fine." It's not great, and I don't think anyone would look at this and say this is my favorite movie ever.
No. You'd have to be really invested in the kind of the Little Italy-ness of it and the Italian themes and in the romance, but also stupid enough to want to defend all those things when it's clearly doing it in a very bad way.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's not great, is it? And it's hard to sort of it's not a hateful movie.
No,
I guess. But if you're really into that kind of thing, you'd be doing something like watching Moonstruck, for instance, which also has the whole Italian American thing going on, but in a much more,
and also stars Danny Aiello.
But does it in a much more enjoyable and heartfelt way, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's still a really fun film that I think holds up really well.
Yeah, or you could watch any of the millions of gangster movies, because apparently that's the only thing you're allowed to do. So I suppose that's something nice about this. There's no gangsters in it. It manages to avoid that stereotype.
No, there's no mob.
there's no
and I was
mob.
surprised. I was expecting at some point someone to mention the mob, or for there to be like a ridiculous mob subplot, which was obviously the route they were going to go down until they remembered pizza competition. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So yeah, at least there's no mob in it. That's good. Pizza is better than mob in terms of stereotypes in movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
Also, I love that she's like a really fancy high-end chef, and then she's like designing her menu on some generic word art design program with horrible type.
Just getting out the clip art of someone cooking something and putting it in. And I just imagine Jane Seymour's character at the other end going, "God damn, it's brilliant.
I love it. This is what millennials like. I know what millennials like. Me, a 50-year-old woman."
Oh yeah, it's quite something, isn't it? And that's the thing, is it's another one of those movies, and these come around every so often. Like what's it called? 50 Shades of Grey, where it has this understanding of the publishing industry that doesn't exist.
Yeah, like where she goes up to someone who's working on a book and says, "Make the font bigger."
Yeah, exactly. Whereas this is kind of the similar thing for pizzas, and I don't know if you noticed, but the two pizzas they made at the end looked quite bad.
They look nasty.
They did not look like good pizzas, and I'm a fan of pizza.
Me too. It still made me want pizza, and I had pizza tonight.
Well, I think that's the thing, is that pizzas that are bad, they're still pizza, aren't they?
Yeah. It's a food, what they say, has a low floor and a high ceiling, right?
Yes, yeah. So you can, any old bad pizza, you're still like, it's still delicious cheese on bread. I'm going to eat this. But then when
whereas
you get
cod roe, well, it doesn't really have a floor or a ceiling. It's at the bottom of the ocean because it's disgusting and should not be eaten.
Oh, quite. It's very bad. But yeah, even so, you'd have thought they'd get some really nice looking pizzas for this movie. Because even when they show the beginning where they're like, "This is our amazing pizzeria where we both work together," you're still like, "Oh, that pizza doesn't look that good." You know?
It looks greasy and weird.
You've been to Canada. Do Canadians make good pizza?
I recall that I ate some pizza there that was good. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, very, very strange. Not enough pizza content for a film about pizza.
Yeah, it's about pizza, but there's nowhere near enough proper pizza. They spend more time on a horrible fig and Gouda pizza.
Disgusting.
With rocket on it, or arugula, as it's called in America.
Oh God, yeah. I was like, what the hell even is that?
So that is rocket, which works all right on a pizza. I've had a pizza with rocket on.
Yeah. You can chuck it on top of a pizza once it's
Put
made.
it on there with some nice, nice cured ham.
Makes you feel like you're being healthy when you're not.
You're still eating a lot of greasy food, but you've got a little bit of green on it, so you're okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, where is the best pizza you've ever had?
Naples, probably.
Yeah.
We went there a couple of years ago on holiday. When I went to the very famous place and I queued and got it, and it was very good. What is that place called?
It's Little Italy Pizza.
Yeah, obviously. It's called Vince's Best Pizza. Sorbillo. That's it. It was very, very good and well worth queuing for.
Sorbio. Yeah, because I'm not sure where because I also had pizza in Naples and around that area, and that's definitely one of the best pizzas I've ever had, if not the best. You go to the the home of the pizza, and you want one that's good. And it's very traditional, isn't it, the way that they cook them?
Yeah.
You know,
the oven has to be a certain temperature and made from a certain brick and whatever.
Yep. And then it is basically just, you know, you go there, you want a margarita, and you want that kind of very traditional pizza, and it's amazing. It's really delicious. So yeah, I think that's up there. If you want good pizza, go to the home of the pizza. Yeah,
for sure. It was very, very good, and I consider it a privilege to have experienced it.
What's your favorite takeaway pizza though? Because that's what I like about pizza is you've got the really traditional lovely pizzas, but then you've got the monstrosities that takeaway pizza joints create, where it's as far from the original pizza as you can possibly get.
Yeah, but it's its own thing, isn't it? Really, people who try and be all traditionalist about it and like say that's not real pizza, it's just like, well, it is, because literally millions of people eat it every day and call it pizza. So it is. It's just not the same as that. You're trying to look cultured by saying you wouldn't enjoy a Domino's pizza or a Papa John's or whatever. You fucking would. You do when no one's looking.
There's a few things that I don't trust about people. One of them is if they don't enjoy a takeaway pizza, I'm immediately suspect to their intentions. I would not let them go on a date with my daughter if they don't like takeaway pizza, for instance.
Yeah.
Not that I have a daughter, but in the future, if I have a daughter and the boy is like, or the girl is like, I don't like pizza. From Domino's, be like, get the fuck out of my house.
Yeah. Or if they don't like pizza at all.
Oh, if they don't like pizza at all, I'm shooting them and hiding them in the house.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We've got to rid the world of people who don't like pizza. But yeah, there's that. And also, like, I love pasta as well, because I am a fiend for Italian food and a horrible carbohydrate monster.
Me too.
And people who, and obviously I love good pasta, but people who don't like a dirty home-fried pasta bake every once in a while, no time for that shit.
Yeah.
You've had a fucking tiring day. You don't want to fucking make a whole sauce from scratch. You know, obviously it's nice when you've got the time, you don't feel stressed. Sometimes you just want the comfort of opening a jar, pouring it over a ridiculous amount of pasta, covering it in cheese, putting it in the oven, and then eating 2 servings worth in the same night.
Yeah. And, you know, pro tip, once you have kids, you rely on that stuff a lot more because you just do not have the time or energy to make stuff.
Well, exactly. You know, like I make a lot of home cooked food now, you know, making a lot of stuff from scratch, but I know one day I'm not going to have time to do that shit. And you know what? Sometimes it's nice just to be like, I don't have to cut any tomatoes and onions tonight.
Yeah.
I don't have to think about spice blends and shit like that. I can just chuck something in an oven and be like, that's good. I'll come back to that in half an hour.
Yeah. The people who are snobbish about all this kind of stuff, like, act as if they're eating, like, homemade fig pizza every night. They're not. They're eating beans on toast when no one's looking.
Yeah, exactly. They're eating pot noodle wrapped in a filthy doner kebab.
How would that work? Is it like you wrap the kebab around the plastic of the pot noodle and then munch it off there like a weird skin?
Okay, I'm thinking about the theoretics here of this. This is not something I've ever done. Disclaimer. But I'm thinking, right, how would you do that? So you've got your kebab meat, I guess inside a pita bread. So maybe you make a little canyon in the doner meat within the pita bread, and then you pour the pot noodle in there after you've cooked it, and then seal it back up, and then you eat the kebab. That must be the way to do it.
Oh, you got to seal it up, have you?
Oh, yeah.
You know what you could do? You could seal that up and kind of crimp the edges, and then put it in the hot pizza oven, and like a calzone. You could put cheese in it, seal it up, put it in the pizza, and put it out. Noodle. Doner pot noodle calzone.
This is still less disgusting than a fig pizza.
I genuinely would rather eat this shit than anything with figs on it.
But no,
figs are fucking disgusting.
You couldn't have the pot noodle on show. It's a great shame. It's like when people eat those fatty birds in France and they have to hide their face with a towel.
Oh yeah.
It's like that. It's the British version of that. Is you can't let the world see that you're eating a pot noodle inside a doner kebab.
Yeah. You could have it in a paper bag, like booze in America. When you're drinking booze on the street from a paper bag.
eating a doner kebab and a pot noodle from a paper bag on the street.
Yeah.
Oh dear, that's my Friday night sorted. I'm going to go out.
Can't wait.
Risk the Rona to go and get a kebab.
They've probably got it on Deliveroo or something.
I'm sure, yeah, but I need to be there in person when they see me open it up and pour a pot noodle over it and then leave.
Oh, so are you going to take the pot noodle with you to the kebab shop?
Yeah, I'll have made a pot noodle in advance.
You'll have boiling water in a thermos so you can do it fresh.
Yes, yeah. I'll be there, and whilst I'm waiting to get my kebab, I'll pour in that and ask, "Oh, can I have a spoon, please, or can I have a fork?" And make the pot noodle, and then
give them back the dirty fork.
Give them back the dirty fork.
Here you go, mate. Thanks a lot.
Hand them the kebab with the pot noodle and say, "Oh, could you put some cheese on this for me, please?"
And pop it in the oven.
And pop it in the oven, make it nice and crispy. I want some crispy noodles.
I'll pay extra. 50p extra.
Oh my god. And then just ask for a giant dip, like a giant garlic and herb dip, and then just dunk the entire thing in the dip.
Yeah, and then because obviously once you bite into it, the constitution of it is going to start crumbling.
It's going to start falling apart. There's
so you got noodles falling into the dip.
There's not much structural integrity in a doner noodle.
No.
Noodle.
And then what you really have is this kind of pot of sauce full of doner meat and noodles left over at the end that you can eat with a spoon.
No, you just put your hand in, man.
Oh, you're going to go fingers?
Just scoop it out with your hand. Welcome to the most disgusting thing we've ever talked about in this podcast.
This is like stuff from that Instagram account, Boys Who Can Cook. Have you seen that?
I've not seen that. What is
I think
this?
I frequently send you things from it.
Oh, is this just where it's like people making Mountain Dew chicken and things like that?
Yeah.
Okay. I might have to follow this account then.
It's very good. But yeah, welcome to the Things to Do with Your Doner Kebab podcast.
I genuinely feel a little bit sick having spoken about this. But yeah, it's not good. Anyway, Ryan, have you got anything else you want to say about Little Italy?
After this just that it was extremely convenient that once they had a fight and a falling out, that the shop next door was available for one of them to move into and turn into the pizzeria that's literally next door.
Yeah, it's very, very good, isn't it, that it didn't turn into a fucking betting shop, which is what everything turns into at the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that was nice and convenient, wasn't it?
And I liked the bit when Emma Roberts went up to her nonna and went, "Hey, what's wrong, nonna? You usually love it when I do stereotypy voicey."
Yeah, you gotta love that.
That was a good bit.
Yeah, for sure.
He had a pretty sweet Toronto Blue Jays jacket on in the opening scene.
Oh yeah,
did you notice that?
I did not notice that, but I'm glad you picked it up as the resident baseballing fan.
That was good. But okay, so my biggest problem with this film is that the whole thing is predicated on the fact that these guys had a fight and a falling out, and you don't know what it's about, and you find out at the end, and all it is was what they were going to name their restaurant.
Yes.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Like nobody has this level of like, and I guess you're supposed to think that that's fine because they're Italians and they're passionate, and that's why they fall out over anything, whatever, which is kind of a dumb stereotype that the film wants you to think, but it doesn't work at all.
No, it's really bad, isn't it? When they reveal that, you're like, oh, that's it? Okay. That's stupid.
Yeah, that's really dumb.
Yeah, it's very, very poor, isn't it?
You thought at least it was going to be something horny, given how horny a film it is.
It tried to touch my ass. Get some homophobia in there as well.
Oh, yeah, sure, why not?
Throw that
tick the racism box already with the Indian characters.
There's a little bit of homophobia in here where he's like, "Are you touching my ass?" to his gay friend. It's like, that's a bit weird. Not sure what that added to the movie.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like a funny, vulgar gag. Touching an ass. Ha ha ha. Hilarious.
Yeah, it's just not good, is it?
Yeah. It's just like, ultimately, this film is a fairly standard rom-com that could have worked if it actually gave a bit more depth on the characters and some of the other stuff, instead of spending 3/4 of its runtime on gags, where half of them actually do land, and some of the sort of sniping back and forth between people is sharp and is funny, but half of them, as you say, are just weird or vulgar non sequiturs.
Yeah, it feels as though a lot of it feels quite ad-libbed, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And them just going, well, we've got that, let's just move on now, rather than trying to think of something funny. Which, yeah, just doesn't work, does it?
Yeah.
So I've got a little bit of trivia for you. When playing football in the rain, Hayden Christensen twisted his ankle and production was halted for a week.
Football.
Football. And then, although 10 months after its release, pot was legalized in Canada, it would still have been illegal to put it in the pizza sauce unless that sauce was sold in a government store. So if this is a government pizza store, that's fine. Otherwise, they'd still be in a lot of trouble.
That's good trivia. I like that.
Yeah.
I also love the idea of a government pizza store.
Yeah, hey, come to get your pizza prescription.
Get pizza on the state. That's the kind of nation that I want to live in.
Yeah, Keir Starmer, if you're listening.
Yeah, we know you listen every week.
Because he fucking
Sir
loves rom-coms.
As Ian Brown called him on Twitter. It's the new Tony B. Liar, isn't it?
Tony B. Liar, yeah. I've seen lots of people calling him Keith as well. I'm not sure where that comes from.
Keith?
Yeah. I'm not sure where that comes from. But yeah, Keir Starmer, famous fan of rom-coms, I guess, since he listens all the time. He's constantly writing in, suggesting stuff, but it's all terrible.
Yeah. He wants us to look at the worst films.
Give us pizza on the state, you bastard. Put that in your
come on.
manifesto.
This is what the people want.
We want fucking pizza.
You think you're a man of the people. You were a human rights lawyer, right? Surely in your time working on human rights, you would have realised that pizza is a human right.
Yeah. Yeah, come on, mate. You weird lawyer bastard.
Yeah, sort it out.
Sort it out, come on. Stop being on PMQs and sort out fucking pizza for the people.
Get on pizza. Cues.
You want to get that red wall back, you've got to make it red with pizza sauce.
Yeah.
Make that manifesto promise. So the only other bit of trivia I have is that this was directed by Donald Petrie, who did Mystic Pizza.
Yes.
Which starred Emma Roberts' aunt, Julia Roberts.
I did know this. I have not seen Mystic Pizza. I think this is one that's been on our kind of back burner list for a while, isn't it?
It has, yeah, and I've not seen it.
Maybe we'll get to it next year.
Heard it's a classic, so yeah, maybe next year we'll get on it. And then, of course, he also did Miss Congeniality, which we've talked about on here, and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which I don't know. Have we spoken about that?
Yeah, that was early on.
Was that very early?
It was one of our earliest episodes.
With Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson. Yeah, I think that was a very early one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to say even first 10. No, episode 28. I've got it.
Oh, wow.
Last
but yeah,
century.
But I think it's fair to say that this is not as good as either of those.
No, it certainly is not.
So how are we going to rate this?
How many figs are on your fancy pizza?
So thankfully there's not many figs on my fancy pizza. It's only got 6 figs on it. I didn't like this movie very much. I did not think it was very good.
No, it's a very annoying film, but there's a certain level of ridiculousness to it that is vaguely charming, but there's too much annoying stuff to get past it. But for that, I will go a little higher. I'll give it a 7 out of 20.
I enjoyed the horniness. If the whole movie had been ridiculously horny, that would have been great.
Horn rating, 20 out of 20.
Yeah, horn rating, 20 out of 20 innuendos. But yeah, needed a bit more of other stuff, didn't it?
It's got the full horn section, the euphonium, the French horn, the tuba. It's got the lot.
Exactly. So we are going into Christmas time now, aren't we?
Yeah. Step into Christmas. Let's watch some bad films.
So do you want to go with one of the ones that you're excited about, or do you want to go with one of the pieces of shit that I've found?
What a choice. No, I wanted to start with the Dolly Parton one because I've been wanting to watch that.
Excellent. Well, yeah, let's do that.
It's called Christmas on the Square?
It's Christmas on the Square pizza.
Yeah. Dolly Parton's Christmas on the Square pizza.
Yeah. Excellent. I'm looking forward to this. A nice palate cleanser after all those figs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's going to wash that taste right out of your mouth.
For sure. Oh, dear.
So, yeah, that looks great. Next week it will be December, and I'm really excited for that.
Yes, it's going to be excellent. Cool.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed talking about Little Italy, even though the film itself was weird and horny. But this was a good episode, I think.
I'm glad that we got to discuss the greatest, worst food ever made.
Yeah.
I'm fully on board with that.
Oh, very good. Well, as always, you can contact us on Twitter at BigBoysDon'tPod. You can email us bigboysdon'tcrypodcast@gmail.com. Always love to hear from you with recommendations, etc. There's a link in our show notes where you can give us money if you like what we do. No subscriptions or anything, just a kind of one-off thing if you want to give us a tip. Think of it like a tip jar. Like you tip your pizza guy.
Yeah, exactly. You tip for a good pizza. You tip for a good episode of a podcast about pizza.
Yeah. And, go and enjoy some pizza.
Yeah, that's the moral of this episode. Go get a nice pizza, everybody. You deserve it. You've had a tough year. Go have some nice pizza.
You've earned it.
Yeah, get on it, guys.
Alrighty, and we'll be back next week to talk about Dolly Parton's Christmas on the Square.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
Bye.